At the holiday table, my son stepped away for a work call. My grandkid followed him, then ran back, shaking. "We have to leave, right now." I stood up, smiling like nothing was wrong. 15 minutes later, 2 officers walked in and asked for me by name. I looked at my son, and he couldn't meet my eyes. But let me back up. The evening started the way these things always do in Gray Harbor. Forced cheer, too much food, and everyone pretending we're closer than we actually are. Elena set the table with the good plates, the ones her mother gave us 30 years ago, white with gold trim. I hate those plates. They make every meal feel like a performance. Logan and Tessa arrived exactly on time, which should have been my first warning. Logan's never on time unless there's an angle. He came through the door with that smile he saves for when other people are watching. Bright, warm, the kind that makes strangers think he's a good son. Tessa followed, carrying a store-bought pie like it was homemade, already talking about how blessed she felt to spend the evening with family. Their kid, Wyatt, trailed behind them, quiet as always. 8 years old, dark hair, eyes that miss nothing. He's the kind of kid who watches adults the way scientists watch lab rats. "Dad!" Logan crossed the room and pulled me into a hug that felt like a photo op. "You look great, really great." "Thanks," I said, because what else do you say when someone compliments you like they're surprised you're still breathing? Tessa kissed Elena's cheek, then mine, leaving a smear of lipstick I'd have to wipe off later. "Everything smells amazing," she said, her voice pitched just loud enough for the neighbors to hear if they were listening. "You didn't have to go to all this trouble." Elena smiled, the polite kind that doesn't reach her eyes. "No trouble." We sat. Logan took the head of the table, which used to be my seat, but I stopped fighting that battle 2 years ago. Tessa sat beside him, already straightening Wyatt's napkin like he couldn't manage it himself. Elena and I took the side chairs, and for a few minutes, everything was almost normal. The food went around. Turkey, stuffing, mashed potatoes, green beans that Tessa picked at like they might contain poison. Logan filled his plate twice, talking the whole time about his new sales numbers, his promotion, the house renovations they were planning. He didn't ask about my work. He never does. Elena passed the rolls. I caught her eye across the table, and she gave me the look. The one that means, just get through tonight. We've been married 32 years. I know all her looks. Tessa leaned toward Elena, her voice dropping into that conspiratorial tone women use when they want you to think they're sharing something important. "I wanted to ask you about that memory planner I sent you. Have you been using it?" Elena's smile tightened. "I saw it. Thank you." "Oh, good," Tessa beamed. "I just thought it might help with, keeping track of things, appointments, medications, that sort of thing. My aunt used one after her stroke, and she said it was a lifesaver." I set my fork down carefully. Elena doesn't need a memory planner. "Of course not." Tessa's laugh was light, airy, the kind that makes you feel stupid for taking offense. "I just meant it's a nice organizational tool, for anyone. I use one myself." Logan cleared his throat. "She's just trying to help, Dad. I know what she's trying to do." The table went quiet. Wyatt looked up from his plate, his eyes moving from me to his father to his mother and back again. Elena touched my hand under the table, a gentle warning. Logan smiled, that same bright smile from the doorway. "Let's not do this tonight, okay? It's the holidays. We're all just trying to have a nice dinner." I picked up my fork. "Sure." But the temperature had shifted. Tessa's mouth was tight, her eyes a little too bright. Logan kept glancing at his phone, which he'd set face down beside his water glass. Every few minutes it would light up, and he'd check it with the kind of casual speed that meant he was waiting for something specific. Elena noticed too. I saw her watching him, her accountant brain already running calculations. Dinner dragged on. Tessa complimented the cranberry sauce, then mentioned she'd found a recipe online that was a little less sweet if you ever want to try something new. Logan asked if I'd given any more thought to simplifying things, his phrase for handing over control of the maintenance business I built from nothing. I told him I'd think about it, which we both knew was a polite way of saying no. His phone lit up again. This time, he picked it up, frowned at the screen, and stood. "Sorry, I need to take this work thing." "On a holiday?" Elena's voice was pleasant, but I heard the edge underneath. "Sales never sleep." Logan grinned, already moving toward the hallway. "Be right back." He disappeared around the corner. I heard his voice, low and careful, but couldn't make out the words. Tessa kept talking, something about a charity event downtown, but I wasn't listening. I was watching Wyatt. The kid had put his fork down. He was staring toward the hallway where his father had gone, his small face tight with something I couldn't name. Then, without asking to be excused, he slid off his chair and followed. Tessa didn't notice. She was too busy telling Elena about the wonderful volunteer opportunity at the community center, her hands moving in practiced gestures. I looked at Elena, and she looked back, and we both knew something was wrong. Wyatt reappeared less than 2 minutes later. His face was pale, his breathing quick and shallow like he'd been running. He walked straight to me, ignoring his mother's surprised, "Wyatt, honey, what?" He grabbed my arm. His fingers were shaking. "We have to leave. Right now." I put my hand over his. "What's wrong?" "We just have to go. Please." Tessa stood up, her chair scraping against the floor. "Wyatt, what on earth are you talking about?" "I heard—" He stopped, his eyes darting toward the hallway. "I heard Dad on the phone." Logan came back into the room, still holding his phone, his expression carefully neutral. "Everything okay?" Wyatt's grip tightened on my arm. I looked at Logan, really looked at him, and saw something flicker behind his eyes. Not guilt, exactly. Something colder. "Wyatt says we need to leave," I said, keeping my voice even. Logan laughed, but it sounded wrong. "Buddy, what are you talking about?" "You said Grandpa's name." Wyatt's voice was small but steady. "And paperwork. And tonight. And you said a time." The room went very, very still. Logan's smile didn't move, but something shifted in his posture. "You misheard, buddy. I was just coordinating a delivery for tomorrow." "You said 8:45, Wyatt insisted. "You said arrival." Tessa moved toward her son, her voice sugary with false comfort. "Sweetheart, you're confused. It was just a boring work call. You know how those are." But Wyatt wasn't looking at her. He was looking at me, and I saw something in his face I'd seen before. The same expression Elena wore when she'd found the first irregularity in our bank statements 3 months ago. That moment when you realize something you trusted is actually a trap. I stood up. My chair didn't scrape. I moved smoothly, deliberately, and I smiled. "You know what? I think Wyatt's right. It's getting late. We should probably start cleaning up." Elena stood too, her movements just as controlled. "I'll get the dishes." "No need to rush," Tessa said quickly. Too quickly. "We haven't even had dessert yet." "I'm full," I said. I looked at Logan. He was checking his phone again, and when he saw me watching, he put it in his pocket. But not before I caught the time on his lock screen. 8:37. "Really, Dad, stay," Logan said. "Relax. You've been looking tired lately." There it was. The concern voice. The voice that sounds like love but feels like a hand on your throat. "I feel fine," I said. "You sure?" He tilted his head, studying me. "Because you seem a little agitated." Elena's hand found mine. Her fingers were cool and steady. "Graham's fine, but we should probably get these dishes done. You know how I am about leaving a mess." Tessa's smile was brittle now. "Oh, let us help. Logan, honey, grab some plates." "Actually," Elena said, her voice pleasant as poison, "we've got it. You all should head home. I know Wyatt has school tomorrow." Winter break, Tessa corrected automatically. Right. Elena's smile didn't waver. Still, I'm sure he's tired. I moved toward the kitchen, pulling Wyatt gently with me. He came without protest, his small hand still gripped around my wrist. Logan and Tessa exchanged a look I wasn't supposed to see, the kind married people use when they're recalibrating a plan on the fly. In the kitchen, I set Wyatt on the counter and crouched down to his level. Tell me exactly what you heard. He glanced toward the doorway, then back to me. His voice dropped to a whisper. He was in the bathroom. I heard him through the door. He said your name. He said paperwork needs to be ready, and tonight, 8:45 arrival. And then he said, just keep him at the table until then. You're sure? I'm sure. His eyes were wet, but he wasn't crying. Grandpa, what's happening? I don't know yet, I said honestly. But you did the right thing telling me. Elena appeared in the doorway, her phone in her hand. She looked at me, and I saw the same calculation in her eyes that I felt in my chest. 8:37. 8 minutes. From the dining room, Tessa's voice rang out, artificially bright. We really should stay for dessert. I brought pie. Logan's voice followed, warm and reasonable. Come on, Dad. Don't be antisocial. It's the holidays. Elena's thumb moved across her phone screen. I couldn't see what she was doing, but I knew that look. She was documenting. Screenshots, timestamps, whatever data she could grab before things went sideways. I walked back into the dining room. Logan and Tessa were still at the table, but now they looked like actors waiting for their cue. Logan's phone was on the table again, face up this time. I could see the screen from where I stood. A calendar notification sat at the top. 8:45, arrival. I pulled out my own phone, casually, like I was checking the time. A notification sat at the top of my screen. Bank of Gray Harbor. New device, attempted access to account ending in 4739. That account was the business operating fund, the one that paid for Logan and Tessa's car lease, their health insurance, the loan that became their down payment. I looked at my son. He looked back, and for just a second, the mask slipped. I saw it. The calculation, the entitlement, the absolute certainty that he was smarter than me. Logan, I said quietly. What did you do? I don't know what you mean. His voice was so sincere it made my teeth ache. Yes, you do. Tessa stood up, her hand going to her chest in a gesture of wounded innocence. Graham, I don't appreciate this tone. We came here to have a nice family dinner, and you're being incredibly hostile. Sit down, Elena said. Not loud, not angry, just firm. Tessa sat. The doorbell rang. For a moment, nobody moved. Then Logan stood, smoothing his shirt like he was about to greet dinner guests. I'll get it. No, I said. I will. I walked to the door, aware of everyone watching me. Elena had moved to the archway between the kitchen and dining room, her phone still in her hand. Wyatt was behind her, peeking around her hip. Logan stood by the table, his posture too casual, his eyes too bright. Tessa had her hand over her mouth, but I could see her watching through her fingers. I opened the door. 2 police officers stood on my porch, their uniforms dark against the wash of porch light. The older one, a woman with gray threaded through her dark hair, gave me a polite nod. Evening. We're looking for Graham Hale. That's me. Sir, we received a call about a possible wellness concern at this address. Would you mind if we came in and spoke with you for a moment? Behind me, I heard Tessa make a small sound. Concern, or maybe triumph. I couldn't tell which. I looked at the officers. Then I looked back at Logan. He couldn't meet my eyes, and that's when I knew exactly what he'd done. Of course, I said to the officers, my voice calm and steady. Come in. Though I should tell you, I think there's been a misunderstanding. They stepped inside, and I saw them take in the scene, the half-cleared dinner table, The family gathered in tense silence, the general atmosphere of a conversation that had been interrupted at exactly the wrong moment. The younger officer, a kid who couldn't have been more than 25, glanced at his partner. She nodded, and he pulled out a small notebook. "Mr. Hale," the older officer said, "we received information that you might be a risk to yourself tonight. Is there somewhere we can talk privately?" Logan stepped forward, his face arranged in perfect concern. "Officers, thank you for coming. We've been worried about Dad. He's been under a lot of stress lately, and tonight he seemed really agitated. We just wanted to make sure he was safe." I felt Elena move beside me. Her presence was solid, grounding. When she spoke, her voice was clear and factual. "Officers, my husband is not agitated, and he's certainly not a risk to himself. We were having a family dinner that became uncomfortable, and now I'm wondering who made this call and why they timed it for exactly this moment." The younger officer looked up from his notebook. "Ma'am, we're just responding to a wellness check. It's standard procedure." "I understand," Elena said, "but I'd like to know who requested it." The older officer's expression remained neutral. "We can't share that information at this time." "Can't or won't?" I asked. "Can't," she repeated. "But Mr. Hale, I do need to ask you a few questions. Are you feeling safe right now? Are you having thoughts of harming yourself or others?" "No," I said simply. "I'm fine. I was having dinner with my family, and now I'm answering questions on my own porch. I'm confused about why you're here, but I'm not in crisis." Tessa spoke up, her voice quavering with practiced emotion. "He's been so forgetful lately. Last week he couldn't remember where he'd put his keys, and tonight he got very angry over nothing. We're just worried about him." I looked at her. "I got angry because you gave my wife a memory planner and implied she'd had a stroke." "I never said that. You said your aunt used one after her stroke, and you thought it would help Elena with medications and appointments." The older officer held up a hand. "Folks, this isn't productive. Mr. Hale, would you be willing to step outside with me for a moment? Just the two of us?" I nodded. "Of course." As I moved toward the door, my phone buzzed again. I glanced at the screen. Another bank notification. "Security verification required. Unusual activity detected." I showed it to the officer. "Someone's trying to access my business account right now, while you're here, while everyone's watching me talk to you." She looked at the screen, then at Logan. Something shifted in her expression. "Officer," Logan said quickly, "my father's been paranoid about his accounts. He thinks everyone's out to get him. It's part of why we're concerned." "Is it paranoia if someone actually is trying to access your account?" I asked. The younger officer cleared his throat. "Sir, do you have security monitoring on your bank accounts?" "Yes, two-factor authentication. And I just got an alert that someone tried to log in from a device I don't recognize." Elena held up her phone. "I'm recording this conversation, by the way, for clarity. I hope that's acceptable, officers." The older officer nodded slowly. "That's your right, ma'am." Logan's face tightened almost imperceptibly. Tessa had gone very still, her hand still pressed to her chest, but her eyes sharp and calculating. I looked at the officer. "I'll answer any questions you have. I'll cooperate fully. But I think you should know that this wellness check was called in to coincide with an attempted access of my bank accounts, and it was timed to happen during a family gathering where multiple witnesses would see me questioned by police. That seems like a strange coincidence." The officer studied me for a long moment. Then she looked at Logan. "Sir, did you make this call?" "I made a call because I was concerned," Logan said, his voice steady, but his eyes darting to Tessa and back. "My father has been acting erratically. I'm his son. I have a right to be concerned." "Acting erratically how?" "He's been suspicious, withdrawn. Tonight he got angry for no reason." "He got angry because your wife insulted mine," Elena said flatly. "That's not erratic. That's normal." The officer turned back to me. "Mr. Hale, Are you willing to answer some questions to help us determine your current state of mind? Yes. What's today's date? I told her. Who's the current president? I told her. Where are you right now? My home, 42 Spruce Street, Gray Harbor, Maine. Do you know why we're here? Because my son called in a wellness check, and I believe he did it to create a distraction while someone attempted to access my bank accounts. I pulled my phone out again and showed her the notifications. These alerts came through in the last 10 minutes, the same 10 minutes you've been here. She looked at the screen. Then she looked at her partner, and some silent communication passed between them. Mr. Hale, she said carefully, have you given anyone permission to access those accounts? No. Has anyone asked you to sign documents regarding those accounts recently? I thought about the conversations over the past 3 months, the gentle pressure, the suggestions about simplifying and estate planning and making things easier, the papers Logan had mentioned just in case something happened. Yes, I said. My son has been encouraging me to add him as a signer, for convenience. And have you done that? No. Logan made a frustrated sound. This is exactly what I'm talking about. He's defensive, he's suspicious, he's accusing his own family of— Sir, the older officer said, her voice firm but not unkind. I need you to let me finish my conversation with your father. Logan went silent, but his jaw was tight. The officer looked at me again. Mr. Hale, do you feel safe in your home right now? Yes. Do you feel threatened by anyone here? I hesitated. Threatened wasn't quite the right word. Betrayed, maybe. Cornered. But threatened implied physical danger, and whatever Logan was doing, it wasn't that. No, I said finally. I don't feel physically threatened. But you feel something's wrong. Yes. She nodded slowly. Mr. Hale, I can't tell you what to do about a family dispute, but I can tell you that what we're looking at here doesn't appear to be a mental health crisis. It appears to be— She paused, choosing her words carefully. A situation that might be better served by other authorities, banking authorities perhaps, or an attorney. You're leaving? Tessa's voice was sharp. But he's clearly not well. You can see that. Ma'am, I see a man who's answering questions clearly and demonstrating appropriate concern about unusual activity on his accounts. That's not a crisis. That's reasonable. But the call brought us here, and we've assessed the situation. The officer looked at Logan. Sir, I want to be clear. Making a false report is a serious matter. If we determine that this call was made in bad faith, there could be consequences. It wasn't in bad faith, Logan said quickly. I was genuinely concerned. Then I'm sure you'll be relieved to know your father appears to be fine. She turned back to me. Mr. Hale, I'd recommend you secure your accounts and consider consulting with an attorney about your family's concerns. If you do feel unsafe at any point, call us. But right now, there's nothing here that requires law enforcement intervention. Thank you, I said. She handed me a card. If you need anything, that's the direct line to the station. They left. I watched their car pull away, the red taillights disappearing down Spruce Street. Then I closed the door and turned to face my family. Logan was already moving toward his coat. Well, this has been a lovely evening. Come on, Tess. Wyatt, we're leaving. Not yet, I said. He stopped, his hand on his jacket. Excuse me? I pulled out my phone and held it up so everyone could see the screen, the bank notifications, the timestamps, the attempted access. You made the call before Wyatt even followed you into the hallway, I said softly. This wasn't a reaction. It was scheduled. That's absurd. The officer arrived at 8:45, exactly when your calendar said. Arrival. I looked at him. This man I raised, this stranger wearing my son's face. You called them before dinner even started. You timed it. You wanted them here while everyone was watching, while I was surrounded by witnesses who could say I seemed off. And while I was distracted by police on my porch, someone tried to access my business account. Tessa grabbed her purse. We don't have to listen to this paranoid. Was it you? I asked her. Do you have my account information? Did Logan give it to you? How dare you? Or was it someone else? A friend? Someone you hired? I turned to Logan. Who was on the phone with you during your work call? His face was pale now, the mask of concern replaced with something colder. You're unbelievable. We try to help you, and you attack us. Help me how? By stealing from me? It's not stealing if it's family money, he snapped, and there it was. The real Logan, the one who believed my work, my business, my accounts were his inheritance to claim whenever he wanted. Elena stepped forward. Her voice was quiet, but it cut through the room like a blade. Leave, now. Gladly. Logan grabbed Wyatt's arm, pulling him toward the door. Tessa followed, her heels clicking on the hardwood. At the door, Logan turned back. You're going to regret this. When you're old and alone, and you realize you pushed everyone away because you're too stubborn to accept help, you're going to regret it. Maybe, I said, but at least I'll still have my bank accounts. He slammed the door hard enough to rattle the windows. Elena and I stood in the sudden silence of our empty dining room. The good plates were still on the table, half the food untouched. Tessa's store-bought pie sat on the counter, never served. Elena's hands were shaking. She was still holding her phone, the recording app still running. Did you get it? I asked. All of it. I pulled her into my arms, and we stood there for a long moment, breathing together in the wreckage of our family dinner. What now? She whispered. I thought about the bank alerts, the attempted access, the wellness check timed to the minute, the paperwork Logan had been pushing, the way Tessa had circulated through town for the past 3 months, planting seeds about my forgetfulness and stress. This wasn't just about tonight. This was a plan. A coordinated, calculated plan to make me look unstable, to take control of everything I'd built, to strip me of autonomy and access while making themselves look like concerned, responsible adults. They'd made one mistake, though. They'd assumed I wouldn't fight back. Now, I said, we go to the office and figure out exactly what they've been trying to take, and then we make sure they can't take anything ever again. Elena pulled back, and I saw something fierce and cold in her eyes. Good. We left the dinner table as it was, plates still full, lights still on, pie still sitting on the counter. We grabbed our coats and walked out into the December night, and I realized that for the first time in months, maybe years, I felt completely clear. Logan wanted a war. He was about to get one. Sunday passed in a strange fog of normalcy and tension. Elena and I went to church, not because we're particularly religious, but because we've always gone, and Rebecca had told me to stay visible and act normal. People greeted us, asked about our holidays, mentioned they'd heard we were having some family troubles, and hoped everything worked out. I smiled and thanked them, and didn't mention that family troubles meant my son was trying to steal everything I owned. After church, we stopped at the diner on Main Street. The place was packed, Sunday breakfast rush, families in their church clothes, retirees taking up the corner booth like they did every week. Marlene, the owner, gave us our usual table by the window. Heard you had some excitement the other night, she said as she poured coffee. Where'd you hear that? Elena asked. Honey, this is Gray Harbor. Everyone heard. Marlene glanced around, then leaned in. Tessa was in here yesterday morning, crying to anyone who'd listen about how you were cutting her and Logan out of your lives. But my son's a cop in Portland, and he says when someone makes a big show about being the victim, they're usually the problem. So I'm not buying it. Thank you, I said quietly. Don't thank me. Just know that some of us remember who you are, and we're not impressed by crocodile tears. She straightened up. Now, what are you eating? We ordered. While we waited, I watched the other tables. Some people looked over at us with curiosity or sympathy. Some avoided eye contact entirely. One couple in the back booth, the Hendersons, who owned a small insurance agency, got up and left without finishing their meal when they saw us. "They're clients," I said. "I know." Elena's jaw was tight. She got to them. The food came. I ate mechanically, barely tasting it. My phone sat on the table between us, silent. Logan hadn't contacted me since last night, which meant he was either regrouping or planning something worse. At noon, Rebecca called. I got the screenshots. 37 contact attempts in 2 hours is egregious. I'm filing an emergency contempt motion tomorrow morning. What will that do? If the judge agrees he violated the protection order, Logan could face fines or jail time. More importantly, it establishes a pattern of harassment and disregard for the court, which strengthens our case for the main hearing. When's the hearing? January 10th. 2 weeks. We'll present evidence of Logan's attempted exploitation, his threats to your business, his violation of the protection order. He'll have to defend his actions on the record. What if he lies? Then we'll prove he's lying. That's what the documentation is for. She paused. Mr. Hale, I need to prepare you for something. At the hearing, Logan's attorney, and he will have one, is going to try to paint you as paranoid, controlling, and vindictive. They'll say you're using the legal system to punish your son for trying to help. They'll bring up every argument, every disagreement, every time you said no to something Logan wanted. Are you ready for that? I'll have to be. Good. Because if you lose your composure, if you get angry or defensive, it plays into their narrative. You need to be calm, factual, and unshakable. I understand. After the call, Elena and I drove to Coastal Bank. The safe deposit box held the deed to the Millinocket cabin, along with my father's will, our marriage certificate, and the original business formation documents. I made copies of everything, put the originals back, and took the copies to the office. By evening, I had a file 3 inches thick labeled Evidence. Bank records showing no mismanagement. Client testimonials I'd asked for and received within hours. Medical records from Dr. Osgood confirming I was healthy. The email chain between Logan and Marcus Holloway. Screenshots of Logan's threats. The recording from our driveway. The wellness check report Officer Morrison had sent unofficially, showing discrepancies in Logan's initial call. It was a fortress of documentation, but it still felt fragile. Monday morning came cold and gray. Elena and I drove to Portland in silence. Rebecca's office felt different this time, less polished and professional, more like a war room. Jennifer, the paralegal, had printed and organized every piece of evidence into labeled binders. Rebecca was in a black suit that looked like armor. "Ready?" she asked. "Yes," Elena said. Rebecca looked at me. "Mr. Hale?" "Ready." "Good. Because Logan's attorney just filed a counter motion claiming you're financially abusing your son by cutting off funds he's relied on for years." I felt the air leave the room. "What?" "He's arguing that you've used your business accounts to support Logan's family, creating a financial dependency, and now you're weaponizing that dependency by withdrawing support without notice. He's asking the court to compel you to maintain current funding levels until the family can negotiate a settlement." "That's insane," Elena said. "Graham has no legal obligation to fund Logan's lifestyle." "Correct, but Logan's attorney is framing it as elder financial abuse, claiming you're using money to control and manipulate your adult son." "They're flipping the script," I said slowly. "Making me the abuser." "Yes. It's a common tactic, and it might work if we didn't have documentation showing Logan's actual plan." Rebecca pulled out a binder, "Which is why we're going to walk into that courtroom and systematically destroy his credibility." The courthouse was a granite building in downtown Portland, cold and imposing. We went through security, climbed 2 flights of stairs, and entered a courtroom that was much smaller than I'd expected. Wood paneling, fluorescent lights, a judge's bench that looked like it had been there since the 70s. Logan was already there, sitting at the defendant's table with a man in an expensive suit. Tessa sat in the gallery behind them, dabbing her eyes with a tissue. When she saw us, she turned away like we'd physically hurt her just by existing. Logan didn't look at me at all. The judge entered, a woman in her 60s with silver hair and the kind of expression that suggested she'd seen every bullshit tactic lawyers could pull and wasn't impressed by any of them. "This is a preliminary hearing on emergency motions filed by both parties," she said without preamble. "We're here to determine temporary measures pending the full hearing on January 10th. Counsel for the petitioner?" Rebecca stood. "Your Honor, Rebecca Simmons representing Graham Hale. We're requesting the existing protection order remain in place and that the respondent, Logan Hale, be held in contempt for violating said order within hours of being served." "Counsel for the respondent?" Logan's attorney stood. He was younger than I expected, maybe 40, with perfect hair and a smile that was all teeth. "James Whitmore representing Logan Hale, Your Honor. We're requesting the court dismiss the protection order as a punitive measure by a father attempting to control his son's life, and we're filing a counter-motion to compel Mr. Graham Hale to maintain financial support he's provided for years and withdrawn without warning or cause." The judge looked at Rebecca. "Ms. Simmons, present your evidence for contempt." Rebecca handed Jennifer 3 binders, one for the judge, one for opposing counsel, one for the record. "Your Honor, the protection order was served at 4:15 p.m. on Saturday, December 28th. By 6 p.m., the respondent had made 37 documented attempts to contact Mr. Graham Hale via phone calls and text messages, in direct violation of the order's no-contact provision. She pulled up screenshots on a laptop connected to the courtroom monitor. The texts appeared on the screen, one after another. The timestamps were damning, every few minutes for 2 solid hours. The judge read through them in silence. Then she looked at Logan. "Mr. Hale, did you make these contacts?" Logan stood. His face was pale but composed. "Your Honor, I was upset. I'd just been served with an order that cut me off from my own father. I reacted emotionally, but I never threatened anyone. I was just trying to understand why he was doing this. The order explicitly prohibited contact. Did you read it?" Yes, Your Honor. But these were text messages. I didn't think that counted as... You didn't think 37 attempts to contact someone counted as contact? Logan's attorney jumped in. "Your Honor, my client was distressed and confused. The order was served abruptly, with no warning, as part of a coordinated attack by his father. His response was emotional, not malicious." "Coordinated attack?" The judge's eyebrows rose. "Mr. Whitmore, your client sent emails detailing a plan to gain control of his father's assets by creating a false narrative of incompetence. That sounds like an attack to me." "Your Honor, those emails were taken out of context. My client was genuinely concerned about his father's declining health and was seeking advice on how to help." Rebecca stood. "Your Honor, may I present additional evidence?" The judge nodded. Rebecca pulled up the email chain with Marcus Holloway. The judge read it, her expression growing colder with each line. "I'm documenting everything," she read aloud. "How long before we can petition for control?" She looked at Logan. "That doesn't sound like concern. That sounds like conspiracy." Whitmore tried again. "Your Honor, my client was exploring options in case his father became genuinely incapacitated. By creating incapacity through false wellness checks?" The judge cut him off. "Ms. Simmons, you mentioned evidence of a false report?" Rebecca pulled out Officer Morrison's unofficial report. "Your Honor, the Gray Harbor Police Department has noted inconsistencies in the initial wellness check call. The caller, who we believe to be Mr. Logan Hale, claimed his father was experiencing a mental health crisis. When officers arrived, they found a man who was calm, coherent, and appropriately concerned about unusual activity on his bank accounts. The officer's report states that the situation appeared to be a family dispute rather than a mental health emergency." "And the bank activity?" "Someone attempted to access Mr. Graham Hale's business account from an unrecognized device 3 times during the wellness check. The timing suggests coordination. Create a distraction while attempting unauthorized access. The judge sat back in her chair. Mr. Whitmore, this doesn't look good for your client. Your Honor, there's no proof my client made those access attempts. Anyone could have. The IP address traced to Portsmouth, where Mr. Logan Hale's brother-in-law resides. The same brother-in-law copied on the emails about gaining control. Rebecca's voice was precise and devastating. Your Honor, this wasn't confusion or concern. This was a calculated attempt to steal. Tessa made a sound from the gallery, a sob or a gasp, I couldn't tell. The judge glanced at her, then back at the attorneys. Here's what's going to happen, she said. The protection order remains in place. Mr. Logan Hale is prohibited from any contact with his father, direct or indirect, until the full hearing. The contempt motion is granted. Mr. Hale will pay a fine of $5,000 and will be required to attend a court-ordered mediation on respect for legal process. Logan's face went white. Whitmore started to object, but the judge held up a hand. I'm not finished. Regarding the counter-motion to compel financial support, denied. Mr. Graham Hale has no legal obligation to fund his adult son's lifestyle. If Mr. Logan Hale has become financially dependent on his father's generosity, that's a personal problem, not a legal one. Your Honor, Whitmore tried. Denied, Counselor. We'll address the full scope of this dispute at the January 10th hearing. Until then, Mr. Logan Hale will comply with the protection order, or he'll find himself facing criminal charges. Are we clear? Yes, Your Honor, Whitmore said tightly. The judge looked at Logan. Mr. Hale? Yes, Your Honor, Logan said. His voice was barely audible. Good. This hearing is adjourned. The gavel came down. For a moment, no one moved. Then Rebecca gathered her files, Elena grabbed her purse, and I stood on shaking legs. Logan was staring at me across the courtroom. His face was a mask of cold fury. Tessa was crying for real now, not the performative tears from the grocery store, but genuine sobs that shook her shoulders. Whitmore leaned in and whispered something to Logan. Logan shook his head. Then he stood, turned, and walked out of the courtroom without looking back. Tessa followed, stumbling slightly in her heels. Rebecca turned to me. That went well. $5,000? I said. He'll pay it, or go to jail. And the mediation will put him on record admitting he violated the order. She smiled. This is a good start, Mr. Hale, but it's just a start. We left the courthouse and walked to the parking garage in silence. Halfway there, Elena stopped and put her hand on my arm. Graham. I turned. She was crying. We won, she said. We actually won. It's not over yet. I know, but we won this part. She pulled me into a hug, and I felt her shaking against me. I was so scared. I thought they'd believe him. I thought the court would see some concerned son and some paranoid old man and side with Logan. We're not old, I said. She laughed, a wet sound that was half sob. We're not young either. No, I agreed, but we're smart, and we're prepared, and we're not giving up. Rebecca cleared her throat behind us. Hate to interrupt, but you should know, Whitmore's going to appeal the contempt ruling. It won't work, but it'll buy Logan some time to regroup. And he will regroup. This isn't over. We know, Elena said. Good. Go home. Celebrate tonight. Tomorrow, we start preparing for the main event. She handed me a business card. That's my personal cell. If anything happens, anything at all, call me immediately. We drove back to Gray Harbor. The town looked the same as always. Quiet streets, snow-dusted sidewalks, Christmas lights still twinkling in windows even though the holiday was long over. But something had shifted. I'd won a battle. The court believed me. The judge had seen through Logan's act. For the first time in days, I felt like I could breathe. We stopped at the diner for coffee. Marlene saw us come in and grinned. You two look like you just won the lottery. Something like that, Elena said. Good. Whatever it is, I'm glad. She poured coffee without asking. By the way, Tessa came in this morning all red-eyed and dramatic, saying you'd attacked Logan in court. But then Sarah Winters, the court clerk, came in for lunch and said actually, Logan got slapped with contempt for harassing you. So I'm thinking Tessa's version isn't quite accurate. It's not, I said. Figured. Want some pie? On the house. We ate pie and drank coffee and let the tension drain out of our shoulders. People came and went, some offering quiet smiles of support, some pretending they didn't see us. But the balance had shifted. The people who mattered, the ones who knew us, who'd worked with me for years, they were in our corner. The rest could think what they wanted. At home, Elena poured 2 glasses of wine, and we sat on the couch in comfortable silence. My phone buzzed once, a text from an unknown number. Congratulations on your court victory. Just remember, the battle isn't over. Monsieur Holloway. I showed Elena. She read it and set her wine down carefully. He's threatening you. He's posturing. Graham, he was part of the plan. He advised Logan on how to petition for conservatorship. He's not just going to walk away. What can he do? The court ruled in our favor. He can advise Logan on the next move. He can help craft a narrative for the main hearing. He can... She stopped. We need to tell Rebecca about this. I forwarded the text to Rebecca. Her response came back in seconds. Documented. Don't respond.